Good morning, everyone. My name is Sandra Meiri, and I'm chair of this panel titled Music, Drama, and Visual Culture. And our first speaker is Dr. Shulamit Leatherman. Okay, Shulamit, I have to present you. Teaches Arts and Judaism at the Skechter Institute MA program in Jewish Studies. For many years, she was also a member of the teaching staff in the Interdepartmental Division of Judaic Studies at Bar-Ilan University, and now has been appointed to serve as the chair of Research Colloquium for European Jewish Art. Her research focuses on the mutual influences between Jewish and Christian art and its historical and theological manifestation. Dr. Leatherman published articles in various journals and books. Her book, Images of Cosmology in Jewish and Byzantine Art, God's Blueprint of Creation, is forthcoming, and the title of her paper is The Dome of Heavens and Its Cosmological Significance in Jewish, Christian, and Islamic Art.
The Dome of the Heavens and Its Cosmological Significance in Jewish, Christian, and Islamic Art. Among many biblical passages, the two verses being seen here on the screen from the book of Yeshayahu make particular reference to the cosmological significance of the dome of the heavens. The spherical dome-like imaging in Jewish, Christian, and Islamic art seems to be a visualization of the cosmological significance of the dome of the heavens being God's throne, a spiritual and mysterious place where God sits above the circle of the earth. In Christian art, the dome covers the roofs of churches as an architectural expression of its hidden cosmic meaning, as expressed by Eusebius, died 339, in his speech concerning the church attire, and in the inaugural anthem of the 4th century church of Hagia Sophia in Edessa, seen on the screen. Both indicate that a church dome structure has a particular symbolism. It represents a cosmic house of God that rises up to the heavens above, thus allowing for hidden meaning to be revealed. Others in the early period of Christianity also related to the loftiness of the churches with domes and to their being regarded as replicas of the heavens and as a link between the earthly and the divine realms. The Holy Sepulchre that was erected by order of Constantine in the 4th century as the memorial tomb of Christ is considered the first and the most revered monument of Christendom. The Holy Sepulchre, Rotunda, was burned by the Persians in 614, but we can gather visual information about it from the 6th century mosaic map discovered in the Church of Madaba in Jordan. The map dates from 560 to 565 CE, displays Jerusalem at its center. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem is imaged as the rectangular building topped with a large spherical dome. Another example of the significance of the dome is the mosaic floor of Capella Theotokos on Mount Nebo in Jordan, dated to the beginning of the 7th century. In front of the altar, next to the apse, there is an image that represents the temple in Jerusalem. It shows a temple facade with an arch and a flaming altar. On either side of the structure are the remains of a deer and a bull destroyed by the iconoclasts, indicating that the Christian church superseded the temple and became the true place of divine worship without animal sacrifices. Divine presence now resides in the Christian church with its dome on top, symbolizing God's heavenly abode. The reliance on biblical verses to describe the dome of the heavens above the earth and its cosmological significance is stressed greatly in a Byzantine Christian treatise written and illustrated in the 6th century work entitled Christian Topography. The cosmological theory of this treatise is based on the premise that the books of the Bible can reveal God's absolute truth and that biblical verses are to be regarded as the authoritative divine source for all theological and scientific knowledge. Thus, the Christian topography homiletic approach relies on verses taken from Genesis, Exodus, Psalm, Isaiah, and Job to provide a firm understanding of the schematic diagram that represents the pattern of the world. The Christian topography drawing depicts a schema of a rectangular structure, the earth, crowned by an arch which represents the dome of the heavens. Wanda Walska-Konis, who translated the book from Greek to French in 1962, regards the cosmographical scheme of the arch rectangular with the line separating the two spaces as the most important drawing in the book, describing the created universe as a vaulted box that holds both the heavens and the earth. In 1989, she summarized her research and identified the 6th century notable Constantine of Antioch as the author of the illustration, thus alluding to Antiochian exegesis to provide the background for the ideas that the Dome Church was a microcosm of the entire cosmos. According to Constantine of Antioch, the word heaven is sometimes in the singular, the heaven is my throne, and sometimes in the plural, the heavens declare the glory of God, the sky proclaims his handiwork. These verses demonstrate the perceptible and imperceptible in the two types of heavens as alluded to the schema of the dome of the heaven used in the Christian topography to describe the cosmos, the temple, and the Ark of Covenant. Constantine of Antioch schematic structure is a symbolic and a mystical image that embraces the cosmological complexities of the two heavens above the earth, as can be found in Psalm 116:16, seen here. The full page Vatican 699 miniature of the Second Coming, the Parousia, is based on the same schematic diagram. The upper vaulted lid corresponds to the heavens and to the Holy of Holies. Jesus is seated on a throne within a dark blue oval shadow of an opening in the upper heavens above the firmament. His second coming is given here an additional symbolism, which upon his resurrection he went through the Holy of Holies, where the Ark of the Covenant was concealed, and ascended to the heavenly temple. Thus, the scheme presented as the symbol of the universe is used by Constantine of Antioch also as the formal representation of the Ark of the Covenant. The verse, "And the cherubim shall spread out their wings on high, screening the ark cover with their wings, with their faces one to another, towards the ark cover shall the faces of the cherubim be," is clearly reflected in this miniature, which shows a domed structure with a pair of cherubim above it. All the Christian examples shown here confirm the great influence of the biblical verses in forming a schema of divinely inspired cosmology with the purpose to help man understand God's presence on earth and also experience the awe and reverence to the highest heavens as God's distant spiritual presence. Let us now examine the dome in Islamic art. The Dome of the Rock, the earliest work of Islam, architecture was built by Abd al-Malik and around the rock on Mount Moriah in 691 to 692. Many scholars have debated the background of this structure with its shining cupola measuring 20 meters in diameter. The question asked is whether this dome was intended to counter the effect of local Byzantine monuments symbolizing the superiority and victory of Islam over its Byzantine opponents in Jerusalem. Abd al-Malik received and also the idea that Abd al-Malik received the right to build the temple because this privilege was taken away from the Jews and the Christian because of their sins. Thus, Islam inherited both of them. The focal point of the site, the dome, was erected in the very center of the Temple Mount, precisely on the sacred rock, with all its symbolism and significance of being the Omphalos navel of the world. The Islamic architectural dome over the rock formed a spiritual junction of the heaven and the earth that encompassed so many mystical compositions, such as mystical connotation, such as paradise, judgment day, and resurrection at the end of time, when God will set up his throne on the rock. Oleg Grabar was of the idea that Abd al-Malik decided to commemorate the Jewish temple and therefore built a ciborium over the rock that was thought to be the only tangible remnant of the Jewish temple. Basilius Susek claimed that the Muslims of the first centuries of Islam honored greatly Solomon's temple and considered it a key religious monument that should be rebuilt as an Islamic site. The construction of the Dome of the Rock was utilized also as the site of the Prophet Muhammad's night journey and his ascension to heaven from Jerusalem, known in the early centuries of Islam as being located directly below the celestial temple. It was also suggested that the decorative rings occupying the inside space of the dome glorified the sacred and sublime space above the rock where the throne of God will be on the day of judgment. Rachel Milstein, in a recent article, uses several illustrations to demonstrate the two complementary sides of the story of Muhammad's ascension, the Miraj, the narrative and the transcendental, expressing the physical and metaphysical significance of the Dome of the Rock in the center of Temple Mount. She maintains that Al-Haram al-Sharif is Jerusalem is both earthly and heavenly space. It is the meeting point between the corporeal and transcendental worlds, where the legends tell that the Prophet Muhammad physically used the rock, the foundation stone, in the center of the Haram as the threshold of his heavenly ascent. This 16th century illustration, titled Bet el-Mikdash in Jerusalem, points out the two viewpoints of Muhammad's apocalyptic earthly and heavenly journey from the Dome of the Rock. Seen here on the slide is Saidi al-Husseini, the author's own version of the guidebook for Muslim holy places that are central to the ritual pilgrimage. The illustration portrays a heavenly vision that includes imagined monuments in Jerusalem. In the center, we see the Rock of God, inside a schematic diagram of the Dome of the Rock that is encircled by a high platform and freestanding arcade. We also see two smaller monuments on the same platform. The east of the dome of the rock is King Solomon's seat of justice, and the west, King David's seat of justice. We see here an eschatological image of the last judgment of the end of times, at the end of times. On the lower right-hand side, we can see the gate of hell. Around the other side are the scale of acts, the pool of paradise, the gate of paradise, the gate of the throne of the lords of the worlds. Temple Mount is clearly portrayed here as the arena of the Day of Judgment and the point of departure for paradise and hell, showing the gates leading to them, which are located in the Jerusalem Haram and in the heavens. This composite history of the shrine is also recorded in other Islamic texts, illustrated here by Al-Tusi, a wonder of creation in the Persian language, probably from Baghdad around 1400. The text of this illustration describes the golden dome that was constructed by King Solomon, and that there was never before an edifice more sophisticated than this. Two angels cast a shadow on it with their wings. Interestingly, the Byzantine illustration of the Ark of the Covenant that we saw before in the Christian topography and also in the Octotext seem to have a similar schema of the temple and the cosmos, namely a dome above a rectangular shape. Why such an image appears in an Islamic context? It seems that from the first century of Islam, there was a special attitude towards the heritage of the Temple of Solomon, and that it was important to Muhammad from the beginning of his mission to direct Muslims' prayer towards Jerusalem, whose past and memories of the Temple of Solomon, symbolized by the dome, remained vital for Muslims believers. The two Islamic illustrations seen here demonstrate the Islamic desire to portray the Bet al-Mikdash as a spiritual, symbolic, and timeless entity. Thus, it seems that the dome in both Christianity and Islam regards the architectonic shape of the dome as the axis mundi between heaven and earth, alluding to God's throne, to the last judgment at the end of days, to paradise and heavenly abode. To search a possible Jewish antecedents of all of this ideas, let us examine a 2nd century symbolic image on the face of the tetradrachma coins of Bar Kokhba, minted in the year 132 to 135 CE. The image contains a temple facade with 4 pillars and architrave and cornice on its face. Between the two central pillars in the spot in the middle, we see normally in Roman coins there was generally the image of a god, and here we see something else. Here there is an image of a square structure made up of dots that is topped by an arch, and 2 horizontal lines divide the square, and between them the 2 prominent dots. Elisheva Rav Elner identifies the image in the coin center as the Ark of the Covenant, viewed from the side, as can be seen in the model of the Ark by Moshe Levin, produced based on biblical description. The Ark and the Kaporet represent the covenant of the divine presence. The cherubim, whose wings spread over the Kaporet, create the arch where, according to Exodus, God will speak to Moses from above the ark cover, from between the 2 cherubim which are upon the ark of the testimony. Rachel Elior cites that in wake of the trauma that followed the destruction of the Jewish temple, an anonymous pseudepigraphic mystical literature was composed to compensate for the absence of the earthly temple. It transferred the temple's sacred worship to a heavenly sanctuary that could be reached with the aid of the mystical chariot called the Merkava in Hebrew. This tradition stems from the two winged cherubim shielding the cover of the ark in the sanctuary in the desert, described as quoted before in Exodus and also in 1 Chronicles, when David instructs Solomon his son concerning the building of the first temple, and saying, for the quote, for the pattern of the chariot, the Merkava, the cherubim, those with outstretched wings, screening the ark of the covenant of the Lord. The same symbol of the two winged cherubim shielding the cover of the ark, it becomes a symbolic concept that for the divine prototype of the temple and its bond between heaven and earth. Did the Jewish spherical schematic motif from the 2nd century continue to be used in Jewish art? Surprisingly, we find a 14th century Sephardic Haggadah with the two front pieces describing the creation cycle using the very same motif, framing the days of creation, is a round-topped rectangular shape with a spherical white-blue stripe representing the heavens. Herbert Broderick contends that the artist miniaturist who painted this frame had to have been aware of the cosmological significance of this schema and its Jewish connotation. He points out the same round-topped rectangular shape representing the future temple in Sarajevo Haggadah. The Messianic temple in the full page illustrated under the Holy Temple may be rebuilt in our day. The open vaulted rectangular entrance in the middle of the temple edifice allows us to see the Ark of the Covenant shaped as an arch rectangular form. Two gilded wings of the cherubim are seen above the two tablets of the covenant, and we see the blue and white circles in the stripes in the round top on top. Realizing the similarities in the attitude to the dome of the heavens in Christian and Islamic art, in Jewish and Christian artistic motif, I would like to point out a connection also between Islamic and Jewish art. Pamela Berger, in her latest 2012 book, The Crescent and the Temple, states that this example from the 15th century in the earliest surviving depiction of the temple is in the guise of the dome of the rock in Jewish art is an interesting thing, because the Jews living in Europe received this model from the Crusaders who came back after the Crusades, who viewed the Dome of the Rock as Templum Domini and brought back this image to the Holy Land. Thus, the image of the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem was used to represent the Jewish temple on a historiated title page for a Hebrew manuscript of Maimonides' Mishneh Torah, Book of Sacrifice, illuminated in northern Italy. The picture depicts two priests performing the sacrifice outside the temple that is portrayed as an octagonal domed building resembling the Dome of the Rock that is, in Jewish context, continues to represent the Jewish temple and its divine significance. To conclude, there is no way of determining which of the many ideas concerning the dome was the accepted one in each one of the three religious traditions and who influenced whom, but surely the symbolism behind the architectonic shape of the dome was to create a link between the earthly and the divine revelation and realms.